When we study history, especially at younger ages, it is often taught that we know exactly what happened in history, that we know exactly what date certain movements and eras started and ended, and that simply isn't true, especially when we're talking about ancient history. Theater history, how it started, where it started, when it started, and why it started are wholly up for debate. This class tends to look at Western theater history, that is, theater in Western civilization, and we know that it began in ancient Greece. That isn't to say that there wasn't something that resembled theaters in other cultures prior to that. There was, and is to this day, a type of ritualistic or shamanistic theater in sub-Saharan Africa. There was a type of theater in ancient Egypt, and there certainly was theater in India and the Far East that predates the theater that started in ancient Greece. I don't know much about African theater, nor about Indian theater, nor about Far East theater. Those are areas of my education that are sadly lacking. That's the first reason why I'm not going to start our discussion in those places and in those times. The other is that it doesn't seem likely that the theater that started in ancient Greece was influenced by theater in those far-off places. The world was a much bigger place back then. Ancient Greek theater might have been influenced slightly by Egyptian theater, but even that connection is a little hard to make. The reason for this is that when theater started in ancient Greece, it was just coming out of a 400-year Dark Ages. During those Dark Ages, it isn't thought that Greece had much contact with the outside world. Most people are taught, and I was, that theater started out as either ritual or storytelling, and that ritual involved dancing and storytelling involved chanting of some kind. We don't really know if those are the origins of Western theater. The last I knew, there were 5 possible explanations about how Western theater got started. The storytelling theory, the dance theory, the judicial theory, the ritual theory, and the great man theory. In truth, it could be any of those, any combination of those, or it could have started in one way in one area and another in another area, and then later was combined. The storytelling theory. Telling stories led to the storyteller elaborating and impersonating. This led to groups telling stories while elaborating and impersonating, and from there it was a short jump to theater. The dance theory. Rather than verbally telling such a story was told physically by imitating the behavior of people and animals, perhaps even in skins or costumes. This led to doing the above with sounds and words and in groups. This, in turn, developed into theater. The judicial theory. Most Greek tragedies have some element of 1 or 2 characters pleading their case, explaining why they are innocent or right of either a crime or a wrongdoing. This resembles judicial proceedings. As well, all early theater in Greece was judged by a group of judges with a winner decided. For these reasons, some believe that theater may have developed out of the judicial system of ancient Athens. The ritual theory. A ritual is an activity that is repeated to gain a specific and desired result. Seasonal and cyclical rituals evolved as a means of affecting events, appeasing gods, transferring information, educating the young, etc. From these rituals, theater may have developed. The great man theory. This theory supposes that all of the elements of the above theories developed, but without developing into theater. But one day a great man synthesized the elements and made theater. I like to joke that one day a man woke up and said, "Oh my God, I have got to do theater." So it is my personal belief that theater was a mixture of at least 3 of these, if not 4. The judicial series seems a little far-fetched to me, although it could have influenced the way in which theater is judged, which means it influenced early theater. I don't see it as an origin. And while I don't think a great man woke up one day and had an epiphany and decided to do theater, as usually happens with advancements in just about anything, it often takes a person who sees a bunch of things that seem disconnected, but who finds a way to combine them, and in the process create something new. So it seems entirely possible that there was a great man or great men who over the course of a couple hundred years advanced storytelling, dance, and ritual into theater. Almost all literature and written art in the Western world can trace itself back to the Iliad and the Odyssey, which were reported to have been written by the poet Homer around 800 BCE. In 800 BCE, the people in the area we now know as Greece were just coming out of a Dark Ages that were caused by the Trojan War. Troy was defeated and destroyed around 1200 BCE by a bunch of kingdoms that joined together to fight and defeat them. That war lasted for a decade, and it put such a strain on those kingdoms that even though they won, their kingdoms fell apart. Now don't confuse a Dark Age with the Dark Ages, which were a specific time in European history. Many and localized Dark Ages have happened in different cultures at different times throughout history. When all these kingdoms fell apart after the Trojan War, there were 400 years with no central government, little education, scarce trade, and few to no advancements in culture. Dark Ages like this are very hard times to live through, and people tend to look towards the gods for help. It was during this time, between 1200 and 800 BCE, that the pantheon of Greek gods developed. Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Demeter, Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Ares, Aphrodite, etc. And the god most important to theater, Dionysus. The way these gods interacted with humans during and following the Trojan War is what the Iliad and the Odyssey are all about. But Homer was telling these tales 400 years after the Trojan War, so the accuracy of them is very much in question. And the qualities he gives to the gods in the tales are probably something that the people living at the end of the Dark Ages needed to hear. Why is this important to theater history, you might be asking yourself? Almost all the great Greek tragedies, which were the first great works of theater, have to do with the Greek gods, or at least the Greek gods play a large part in what happens to the humans in the plays. As well, all Greek theater was performed only on religious holidays. In fact, they were performed once a year during the festival of Dionysus. Dionysus being the god of wine and fertility and madness and generally having a great time, Dionysus was also the god of theater. Now, as you'll find out as we go through this unit, I find the interplay between theater and ritual/religion to be fascinating.